Hey guys, it's Samantha,
And this is Sage.
And I'm Lola.
and we're going to be talking about the Lower Snake River Dam.
So, on the Snake River, there are about 31 dams overall, but we're specifically talking about the 4 lower river dams. They are the biggest and most important, at least in this debate, about whether to keep the dams or to tear them down. The 4 main dams are the Ice Harbor, Lower Monumental, Lower Granite, and Little Goose. They're all owned by the Army Corps of Engineers, and we have a location here in Walla Walla. And then the 27 dams upriver are owned by the Bureau of Reclamation.
And since we're talking about these dams, I think it's important to bring in a little bit of history into this. So I don't know if you guys knew this, but in 1938, the Corps of Engineers attempted to place these dams at the lower end of the river, and it failed the very first time. But in 1945, the proposal was finally passed by the River and Harbors Act, where they ended up developing these dams to produce mass amounts of hydropower. The Lower Monumental Dam was the first major dam built on the Lower Snake River, as it received criticism revolving fish. But they continued building the next 3 dams, which the next one was the Ice Harbor Dam. They were still facing issues revolving around salmon and transportation, and then began operating in 1962. The 3rd dam was built in 1970, Little Goose, which was significant to increasing the supply of energy because became a higher demand of this resource as other states wanted hydropower. And the 4th and final dam was the Lower Granite, and it established at the lower end of the river. As the environmental movement began to rise in the 1970s, the construction experienced various delays of vocal oppositions from large companies that were exposed to the public. And because of this delay, it wasn't fully done and completed until 1975.
So true.
You learn something new every day,
Thanks
folks.
for that.
Yes, we do.
All right, so we've been talking a lot about these dams, but we haven't really explained how they work. So, right behind me here, we have a diagram, which I will be explaining.
It's a very nice diagram.
So, here is our dam. This is the forebay, which is just the water that's held behind the dam, and then the trail race, which is the water underneath. So basically the dam is keeping all the water elevated, which is the potential energy, and then releasing it into the trail race, and that's turning it into kinetic energy, which we harness through turbines. So what's going on is the water is going to go through this little tunnel right here and spin a turbine, which is going to generate electricity, and the water is going to come out here. And for our fish, there's a little flap right in front of that will direct the fish upwards into this little tunnel and out here into the juvenile bypass. Now, not all the fish can find that, so if they do go through here, they should be able to make it out unharmed. They can just exit through here. Okay, so then over here we have the spillway weir, which is for when the water up here gets too high and they need to mitigate flood risk. And then the regular spillway is just for surface level water to let that through. And that is just a basic overview of how these dams function.
Okay, so I'll be covering the economic impacts of the Lower Snake River dams. The Snake River covers 48,000 acres of land.
That's a lot of land.
Right, for irrigation systems. And the value of this land comes up to $342 million in 2022. Crazy.
A lot of money, too.
Right? This irrigation systems also brings in 14 to 19 million in social welfare annually and 256 million in labor income. Wow. Now on to transportation. The dams allow 2.2 million tons of agricultural products and 10% of wheat products that are exported from the U.S. on barges through the Lower Snake River dams.
Oh,
That's crazy.
That is a lot.
So these dams actually offer different, faster pathways for delivery systems and for exported goods. And so without these Snake River dams, there would be an increase in transportation costs, a reduce in profit margins for farmers, and it would raise consumer prices and weaken the competitive position in the financial markets. The annual maintenance cost is also $255 million a year, which is a lot. But comparing that to the total cost to replace the dam, it's about $10 billion to $30 billion.
What?
Right?
That's a big difference.
Yeah, so the annual maintenance fees in 15 years are predicted to be $4.5 billion to $9 billion. And so compare that to the 10 billion to 30 billion to replace it, it's much cheaper to continue to maintain the river dams. Yeah.
Because
right?
that was like full of
a lot of
such
stats.
that was full of like such great information, at least the pros side of it. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to bring up maybe some downsides to this. I'm really sorry, guys, but you know, guys,
Yeah.
we gotta talk about the fish. The fish matter too. Which let's talk about them. So before the Snake River was in possession of the colonial settlers, it was under the jurisdiction of the Nez Perce tribe, and they practiced salmon harvesting, and the Snake River was a very sacred fishing grounds for them. It was very important for these people. So then when these dams were put in place, it became a very big environmental threat against the salmon populations, which, did you know, that the dams have killed between 50 to 80% of juvenile salmon that are trying to make their way back to the ocean?
Wow.
Crazy.
That
Crazy.
is tragic.
I don't know, because, well, when these salmon are born, they'll spend their time in the rivers for like a little bit. They'll just hang out, and then eventually they'll grow into juvenile fish, and then they will swim their way down the river and then spend several years in the wild, in the ocean, I guess, just hanging out, having a good time. And when their time has, finally been completed, they will go back to their native spot. They will go to the exact location where they spawned and then respawn and bring more life to their species, which is
Wow.
super, super cool.
Fascinating.
About that, apparently salmon use the scent to get back to the same place.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, that is a fact.
Fascinating.
Exactly. So by keeping these dams in place, it's just going to further impact them. So, I mean, yes, you have great points, but then we also are worried about the fish.
The fish.
The fish.
Save our salmon, guys. And not just salmon.
Even the steelhead, too. Even the
steelhead.
Mm-hmm. Because those guys go in the ocean, too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's my part. But hopefully this doesn't, create some controversies or whatever, even though this has been a debatable topic forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's always good to just talk about both sides of it and, gain some sort of understanding and, form your own opinions. We're just telling you how these things work.
You
At
gotta
this
start
point.
somewhere.
You guys-
Hopefully our presentation helped you out with that.
Yes.
Yeah, we hope you learned something today.
Yes, I hope you take this in. You maybe, I don't know, want to build on this. This is kind of broad, but you know what? Happy holidays, happy end of the semester, and please drive home or fly home safely. And we'll see you next time, I guess, maybe. I don't know. We'll see you around.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks, guys.